The trouble started exactly 1 week later. Hana was running tests on soil samples when Commander Doyen entered her lab. His expression told her everything before he spoke. "We have a situation," he said. "How bad?" "Cultural incident level. Maybe political if we don't handle it right." Hana set down her equipment. "The Cubs?" The Cubs talked. "A lot, to everyone. Now half the young Velkari on this station think you're some kind of secret warrior with mysterious powers. The adults think it's disrespectful nonsense, and I tried to explain. I know. But Commander Thrakvar doesn't care about explanations. He's the station's Velkari military leader, and he's decided this needs to be corrected publicly." Hana felt cold. "Corrected how?" "There's a station-wide gathering tonight. Cultural exchange event. Food, music, that sort of thing. Thrakvar is going to make a demonstration." "Of what?" Doyen looked uncomfortable. "Of human weakness. He's calling for a trial of claws." The trial of claws was a Velkari tradition. Hana had read about it in the cultural database. It was a combat ritual, non-lethal but intense. 2 participants faced each other in tests of endurance, pain tolerance, and fighting spirit. The goal wasn't to injure seriously but to see who would withdraw first. "He wants to fight me?" Hana asked. "Not him. His son. Kael. He's young, only 15 in human years, but he's been training his whole life. Thrakvar wants to prove that humans can't match Velkari strength, even young ones. He wants to shame you in front of the Cubs. To teach them a lesson." "Yes." Hana thought about Reith, Kayla, and Vorn, about how they'd looked at her with admiration and hope. If she refused, their belief would shatter anyway. If she fought and lost badly, same result. But if she didn't try at all, "I'll do it," she said. "Hana, I'll do it. Tell Thrakvar I accept." Doyen stared at her. "You understand you'll lose, right? Kale is trained, strong, fast. You're a scientist, I know. But those Cubs believe in something. Maybe it's a misunderstanding, but it's important to them. I won't let them down without trying." "You're crazy," Doyen muttered, but he was smiling slightly. "Okay, I'll inform Thrakvar. The trial is tonight at the gathering. You have 7 hours to prepare." "How do I prepare to fight an alien teenager who could probably tear me in half?" "Let me make some calls. We've got human security personnel on station." "And Hana?" Doyen paused at the door. "The trial has rules. You can use protective gear. You can use your own equipment as long as it's not weapons. And the judges watch for honor and spirit, not just strength." After he left, Hana sat in her lab for 10 minutes, wondering what she'd agreed to. Then she started researching. The trial had 3 phases. First was marking. Contestants tried to touch their opponent with ceremonial paint while defending themselves. Second was endurance, holding difficult positions while the other tried to disrupt your balance. Third was pain tolerance, a series of challenges designed to test who could withstand discomfort longest. She couldn't win on strength, but maybe she could win on strategy. Taehyun from security arrived an hour later. He was stocky, muscular, ex-military like Doyen. He looked Hana up and down and shook his head. "This is suicide," he said cheerfully. "Let's get started." They went to the station's small gym. Taehyun had her do basic exercises. Nothing heavy, just stretches and movement drills. "You need to be flexible. Use your size. Velkari are big and strong, but they're not as flexible as humans. You can bend and roll in ways they can't." He showed her defensive moves, how to redirect force instead of blocking it.
How to fall safely.
How to protect vital areas. "You won't overpower Kyle," Taehyun said, "so don't try. Frustrate him. Make him work for every point. Stay calm. Velkari respect courage under pressure." They practiced for 3 hours. By the end, Hana was exhausted and covered in sweat. But she had a plan. Sort of Minji, the station psychologist, stopped by with advice too. Focus on breathing. Meditation techniques. The pain tolerance phase is where you might have a chance. Valkyrie power through pain with aggression. You can use calm focus instead. Different approach, same goal. By the time evening arrived, Hana felt as ready as she'd ever be, which wasn't very ready at all. The gathering was held in the main cargo bay, transformed with decorations from both cultures. Human music played alongside Velkari drumming. Tables offered food from a dozen worlds. Hundreds of station personnel attended, Velkari, humans, and other species who worked on the research station. Hana arrived to find a large circle cleared in the center of the bay. The combat area. Around it, seats were arranged in rings. The front rows were packed with young Velkari, including Rith, Kayla, and Vorn. The The cubs saw her and their ears perked up. They chirped excitedly to each other. Commander Thrakvar stood near the circle. He was massive, his fur a deep gold, his eyes sharp and calculating. Beside him stood Kale, his son. Kyle was young but already over 6 feet tall. His fur was darker than his father's, striped with black. He wore traditional combat gear, minimal clothing that left most of his fur and muscles visible. His claws, normally retracted, were visible at his fingertips. Hana walked to the circle. She wore flexible clothing and light protective padding on her joints and chest. Nothing heavy. She needed to move. Thrakvar's voice boomed across the bay. We gather tonight for a trial of claws. My son Kale, warrior in training, stands ready. The human, Hana Choi, has accepted the challenge. Let all witness the truth of strength. The crowd cheered. Hana noticed that most humans looked worried. Most Velkari looked amused. But the cubs looked excited. A Velkari elder stepped forward to officiate. She explained the rules in both Galactic Standard and Velkari. 3 phases. No lethal force. Withdraw at any time by leaving the circle. Judges would watch for honor violations. Contestants, take your positions, the elder commanded. Hana stepped into the circle. Kale entered from the opposite side. Up close, he was even more intimidating. His muscles rippled under his fur. His eyes glowed with confidence. No shame in withdrawing now, he said quietly. Not cruel, just matter of fact. You are brave to try. That is enough. Thanks, Hana said. But I'm seeing this through. Kale's ears twitched. Surprise or respect, she couldn't tell. The elder raised her hand. Phase 1 begins. First to 3 marks. She dropped her hand. Kale moved like lightning. He circled left, testing her defense. Hana turned with him, keeping her body angled. He feinted right, then lunged left, his paint-covered palm aimed at her shoulder. Hana dropped and rolled. The move felt clumsy to her, but it worked. Kale's hand passed over her head. The crowd murmured. Hana came up and tried for a mark of her own, but Kale was already out of reach. He was fast. So fast they circled again. This time Kale didn't faint. He came straight in, using his reach advantage. Hana couldn't dodge completely. His palm hit her shoulder, first mark, 1-0. The elder called. The Valkyrie cheered. Hana took a breath. Okay. She'd expected that. Second exchange. Kale was more confident now. He pressed harder, forcing Hana backward. She tried to slip past his guard, but wasn't quick enough. Second mark on her upper arm. 2-0. The cubs looked worried now. Vorn's tail was straight and still. Anxiety. Hana changed tactics. Instead of trying to dodge Kale's strikes, she waited for one. When he lunged for the 3rd mark, she twisted her whole body, grabbed his extended arm and used his own momentum to pull herself past him. Her paint-covered hand slapped his back before he could recover. 1-2, the elder announced. The crowd went silent. Then the humans erupted in cheers. Kale turned, surprise clear on his face. Good move, the fight continued. Kale scored his 3rd mark, winning the phase. But Hana had gotten 2 marks on him total. Better than expected. Phase 2 was harder. It involved holding positions, squats, planks, one-legged stances, while the other contestant tried to disrupt you. No hitting, but pushing and balance challenges were allowed. Kale's strength was overwhelming in this phase. When Hana tried to push him, it was like pushing a wall. But when he pushed her, she used her flexibility. She bent, flowed, adjusted. She fell twice, but got back up each time. The elder called time. Draw. Both contestants showed equal determination. Hana was shaking with exhaustion. Her legs burned. Her arms felt like rubber. But she'd survived 2 phases. Phase 3. Pain tolerance, this was her chance. If she had any chance at all. Phase 3 began with silence. The cargo bay had been noisy throughout the first 2 phases. Cheering, commentary, the sounds of combat. Now everyone watched in quiet anticipation. This final phase would determine the trial's outcome. The elder brought out the equipment. 2 meditation mats placed side by side, 2 sets of pressure bands that would tighten slowly, testing tolerance, 2 containers of ice water for hand submersion. The challenges looked simple, but Hana knew they weren't. Contestants will face each challenge together, the elder explained. First to withdraw or show defeat loses the phase. This determines the trial's victor. Kale stretched his arms, rolling his shoulders. He looked tired but confident. His fur was matted with sweat, and he had paint marks from Hana's successful strikes. But he was still strong, still ready, Hana could barely stand. Her whole body screamed at her to quit. But she thought of 3 small cubs in the front row, watching with desperate hope in their glowing eyes. First challenge, the elder announced, pressure tolerance. They each took a band, a strip of smart material that would constrict around the forearm, gradually increasing pressure. Not enough to cause damage, but enough to hurt. The goal was to last as long as possible. Hana and Kyle slipped on the bands. They locked with a soft click. Begin. The pressure started gentle, uncomfortable but manageable. Hana focused on her breathing like Minji had taught her. In for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Out for 4. The pain became background noise. Kyle stood straight, his jaw set. The Valkyrie way. Meet pain with strength with pride. His ears were forward, his posture perfect. The pressure increased. Hana's arm started to throb. She wanted to tear the band off. Instead, she breathed. In. Hold. Out. She let her shoulders drop, releasing tension everywhere except where necessary. More pressure. Kale's ear twitched, a tiny sign of discomfort. The first crack in his warrior's stance. Hana's vision swam slightly. The pain was reaching levels she'd never experienced in training. But she'd had practice with pain, hadn't she? The coolant burn, medical procedures, that childhood bike accident that left her screaming on the pavement. She knew pain could be survived. The pressure increased again. Kyle made a sound, low and controlled, but audible. A growl of discomfort. His claws extended slightly, an involuntary response. Hana kept breathing. Sweat ran down her face. Her arm felt like it was being crushed, but she didn't make a sound. 30 seconds more. 45. 1 minute at maximum pressure. Kyle's hand moved toward the release, then stopped. He looked at Hana, saw her calm face, her steady breathing, and set his jaw again. Stubborn pride. 90 seconds. Enough, the elder called. Both bands released simultaneously. Both contestants pass. Next challenge. Hana's arm was numb. She flexed her fingers carefully, getting blood flowing again. Beside her, Kale rubbed his own arm, respect growing in his eyes. You are tougher than you look, he said quietly. You too, Hana managed. The second challenge was balance and endurance combined. They each had to hold a squat position, thighs parallel to the ground, back straight, for as long as possible. Simple but brutal. Hana's legs were already exhausted from phase 2. She lowered herself into position and immediately felt them shaking. This was going to be bad. Kale dropped into his squat with practiced ease. His powerful legs showed barely any strain at first. Begin, the elder said. 10 seconds in, Hana's legs burned. 20 seconds, they screamed. 30 seconds, she was sure they would give out. But she'd done this before too. Lab work meant standing for hours. Field research meant crouching in uncomfortable positions. Her body knew how to push through discomfort. 1 minute. Kyle was breathing harder now. His squat was still perfect, but the effort showed. Hana's form started to break. Her back bent slightly. She caught herself and straightened with sheer willpower. 2 minutes. The crowd was completely silent. Even the cubs had stopped chirping. Kale's legs began to shake. Small tremors ran through his muscles. He growled softly, fighting his own body's limits. Hana's leg cramped. The pain was instant and electric, shooting from her calf up through her thigh. She gasped but didn't stand. Instead, she shifted her weight microscopically, adjusting to compensate for the cramping muscle. It was the worst decision and the best decision. The cramp didn't go away, but she could hold the position. 2 minutes 30 seconds. Kale's ears flattened. He was reaching his limit. His breathing came in short bursts. Hana's entire body shook now. She didn't care. Let it shake. She was still in position. 2 minutes 45 seconds. They collapsed at the same instant. Both crashed to their knees, unable to hold the squat a second longer. Hana's cramped leg spasmed and she bit her lip to keep from crying out. The elder stepped forward. Both contestants reached failure simultaneously. Another draw. Final challenge. The last challenge was ice water submersion. Both contestants would place their hands in containers of near-freezing water. Last one to withdraw won the phase and the trial. Simple, straightforward, agonizing. Hana knelt beside her container, her hands hovering over the water. She could see ice crystals floating in it. Her hands were already shaking from exhaustion and pain. "This determines the trial," the elder said. "On my mark, begin." Hana plunged her hands into the water. Cold wasn't the right word. It was fire. It was knives. It was every nerve in her hands screaming at once. The cold was so intense it felt hot. Beside her, Kyle hissed as his hands went under. His fur bristled, an automatic response to the extreme temperature. 5 seconds felt like an hour. Hana wanted to pull out. Every instinct demanded she remove her hands from the pain, but she'd come too far. Those cubs were watching. All the humans were watching. Even the skeptical Velkari were watching now with different expressions. She focused on something beyond the cold. She thought about Earth, about oceans and ice caps, about how her ancestors had survived worse than this. Humans came from a world of extremes, deserts and tundras, mountains and depths. This cold was nothing compared to what her species had endured. 30 seconds. Kale's hands were still submerged, but his whole body was tense. His jaw worked, fangs slightly visible. The cold was affecting him more than he'd expected. 45 seconds. Hana couldn't feel her fingers anymore. Good. If she couldn't feel them, they couldn't hurt. She watched the water instead, watched the way the ice crystals moved, focused on anything but the pain. 1 minute. The cargo bay was absolutely silent except for breathing. Kale's harsh and rapid, Hana's slow and controlled. Kale's hands trembled under the water. His species came from warm savannas and hot plains. Cold was their enemy in ways it wasn't for humans. 90 seconds. Kyle pulled his hands out. For a moment nobody moved. Then the elder's voice rang out. "The human endures! Phase 3, victory! Hana Choi!" The crowd erupted. Humans cheered wildly. Some Velkari looked shocked. Others, especially the younger ones, roared their approval. Hana pulled her hands from the water. They were red and white, completely numb. She couldn't control her fingers. Someone wrapped them in heated blankets immediately. Doyun, appearing from the crowd with a medical kit. Kale stood slowly. He looked at his own hands, then at Hana. His expression was complex. Surprise, respect, and something else. Understanding, maybe. He approached her and extended one clawed hand in the traditional Velkari gesture. The warrior's acknowledgement between equals. "You fought with honor," he said formally. "Your spirit is strong. I was wrong to doubt." Hana, still kneeling, tried to return the gesture, but her hands wouldn't cooperate. Kyle saw her struggle and gently took her wrapped hands in his own, completing the gesture for both of them. "The trial is concluded," the elder announced. Both warriors showed exceptional spirit. The human victory in Phase 3 does not diminish the young warrior Kale's performance. Both have proven themselves worthy of respect. But everyone knew what it meant. Hana had won the deciding phase. A human had matched a trained Velkari warrior. Commander Thrakvar stepped forward. The cargo bay fell silent again. His expression was unreadable as he approached Hana. She tried to stand, but her legs were too damaged from the squat challenge. She stayed kneeling, looking up at the massive Velkari commander. Thrakvar studied her for a long moment. Then slowly, he bowed. Not a full bow, but a distinct lowering of his head, a gesture of respect. "I sought to teach a lesson tonight," he said, his voice carrying across the bay. "I did learn one, but not the lesson I expected." He turned to address the entire gathering. "Strength takes many forms. The human survived not through our power, but through her own. This is not shameful. This is worthy of consideration." He looked back at Hana. "You surprised me, scientist. That does not happen often." Three small shapes rushed past the commander's legs. Rith, Kayla, and Vorn reached Hana, chirping and chattering in excitement. They tried to help her up, their small hands surprisingly gentle. "You showed them," Rith said. "You showed everyone." "Scarkeeper is mighty," Kayla added. "We knew," Vorn said solemnly. "We knew all along." Hana smiled despite her exhaustion and pain. "I'm not a Scarkeeper, I'm just stubborn." "Same thing," Rith insisted. Medics arrived, both human and Velkari. They helped Hana to her feet and started guiding her toward the medical bay. The crowd parted for them and Hana saw faces as she passed, Doyun giving her a proud grin, Minji with tears in her eyes, Taehyun nodding approval, and Velkari. The medical bay released Hana after 2 hours of unnecessary poking and scanning. The Velkari healer had been thorough, almost aggressive in his treatment. He'd removed her careful stitches, muttering about primitive methods, and used their own healing technology instead. A laser sealed the wound properly, and regenerative gel would prevent scarring. "You will heal completely," he'd told her with something like disappointment. "No mark will remain. Wasteful injury." Hana didn't argue. She was too tired. For the next 3 days, she kept to her schedule. Lab work in the morning, data analysis after lunch, reports in the evening. Normal routine. Safe routine, except she kept seeing 3 small shadows. They appeared in corridors when she walked to the cafeteria. They lingered near the observation windows when she took her afternoon break. They never approached, never spoke, just watched the 3 cubs from the dome. On the 4th day, Hana found Commander Doyen in the recreation area. He was human, military liaison to the station, and one of the few people she considered a friend. He sat reading reports on a tablet but looked up when she approached. "Got a question?" Hana said, sitting across from him. "About Velkari children." Doyen raised an eyebrow. "That's a broad topic. Specifically about why 3 of them are following me." "Ah." He set down his tablet. "The cubs from the agricultural dome. I heard about that. What did you hear?" "That you gave yourself field treatment for a pretty serious injury. That 3 cubs witnessed it. That they've been talking non-stop about the soft skins battle ritual ever since." Hana blinked. "Battle ritual?" Doyen leaned back in his chair. "Do you know anything about Velkari culture?" "I'm a biologist, not an anthropologist. I know they're warriors. I know they value strength. It's deeper than that." Doyen pulled up a file on his tablet and turned it toward her. Images showed Velkari warriors, their bodies marked with scars. "See these? Scars are everything to them. They're proof of survival. Proof of battle experience. Young Velkari are taught to identify warriors by their scars." Hana looked at the images. Long marks across shoulders, claw marks on faces, burns on arms, all deliberately left visible, untreated, or minimally healed. "They don't treat wounds?" she asked. "They treat them enough to survive, but they want the scars. Each scar tells a story. The bigger the scar, the greater the battle. It's how they show honor and experience, and that's—" Hana searched for a diplomatic word. "Different. It's their way." Doyen pulled the tablet back. "So when 3 cubs saw you calmly treating a serious wound, stitching yourself up, talking through each step, they didn't see first aid. They saw a warrior performing a sacred ritual, one they'd never seen before." Hana remembered the cubs' wide eyes, their complete attention. "They thought I was marking myself on purpose." "Probably. Your stitches looked deliberate to them, precise, like you were carefully creating a scar pattern. But the wound is almost healed now. The Velkari healer made sure there won't be any scar." Doyen winced. That might be a problem. He was right. That evening, Hana found all 3 cubs waiting outside her quarters. They stood in a neat line, their tails swishing nervously behind them. When her door opened, they straightened up. The smallest one, the gray one, stepped forward. "Scarkeeper Hana?" Hana paused. "What did you call me?" "Scarkeeper," the cub repeated. Its galactic standard was rough but understandable. "You keep scars. You make scars with ceremony." "We watched." The black cub nudged the gray one aside. "I am Rith, this is Keela." He pointed to the gray cub. "And Vorn." The brown cub nodded. "Nice to meet you officially," Hana said carefully. "But I'm not a scarkeeper. I'm a scientist." "Show us," Ryth said suddenly. "Show us honor marks from dome battle." "Battle?" "There was no battle. A pipe broke." I got hurt. That's all. The three cubs exchanged glances. Vorn spoke for the first time. You fought injury. You marked yourself with precision. You did ceremony alone, no help. This is warrior way, Hana sighed. She held up her arm, pulling back the sleeve. The skin was pink and new but smooth. No stitches, no scar. Almost like the injury had never happened. The cub's ears flattened. Kayla made a sound like a distressed chirp. You hide victory? Rith asked, his voice quiet. You ashamed of honor mark? No, I'm not ashamed. Humans we heal differently. We don't want scars. We have medicine that removes them. Why? All three cubs asked at once. Hana didn't have a good answer. How do you explain to warrior cubs that humans avoid scars because they're inconvenient? Because they can cause problems? Because they remind you of pain? Can we sit? She asked instead. This needs a longer explanation. The cubs followed her into her quarters. They perched on the edge of her couch, looking around with open curiosity at her human belongings. Pictures from Earth, books, a plant she'd been growing from seeds. Humans heal wounds completely when we can, Hana began. We have technology that repairs skin, removes scars, fixes damage. We do this because our bodies are fragile, weaker than Velkari bodies. A scar that wouldn't bother you might cause me pain or limit my movement. Rith tilted his head. Soft skins are weak. Everyone knows. But you still showed warrior spirit. I showed common sense. If I didn't treat the wound, I could have gotten an infection. I could have lost use of my arm. The injury could have gotten worse. But you have other honor marks? Kayla asked hopefully. From before? Hana hesitated. She did have scars. Old ones from before she'd had access to the best regenerative medicine. A childhood accident, a lab incident years ago, a surgery from when she was young. Maybe a few, she admitted. The cubs' eyes lit up. Their tails started swishing faster. Excitement, she'd learned, not anger. Show us medal collection, Vorn said eagerly. They're not medals, please? All three cubs looked at her with those big, glowing eyes. It was hard to say no. Hana rolled up her sleeve further. On her upper arm, a small white line. Bike accident when I was 8 years old. I fell and cut my arm on broken glass. The cubs leaned in close, examining the scar with intense focus. This one, she lifted her shirt slightly to show a mark on her side, is from surgery. My appendix had to be removed when I was 16. Removed? Rith looked confused. A body part that got sick. Doctors cut it out. You survived cutting? Kayla breathed. With honor mark as proof? I guess so. She showed them 2 more scars. A burn on her hand from a lab accident, a mark on her knee from falling during a hike. Each time she explained they were accidents, nothing special. Each time the cubs looked more awed. You have fought many battles, Rith said seriously. You survived many dangers. You are a great warrior but hide all honors. Why? Because I'm not a warrior. I'm a scientist. These aren't honors. They're just things that happened. The cubs sat back, clearly confused. They whispered to each other in their own language, too fast for the translator to catch. Finally, Vorn said, We understand now. You are humble warrior. You hide power. This is why you seem weak. It is disguised. No, that's not. We will keep secret, Kayla promised. We not tell others about your medals. We not tell you our scar keeper. Before Hana could correct them again, all 3 cubs stood and bowed, a Velkari gesture of respect she'd only seen them give to adults. Then they ran out of her quarters, chattering excitedly. Hana sat alone, wondering what she'd just started. In the hallway outside, she could hear the cubs' voices fading into the distance. Did you see? So many marks. She is mighty warrior. Doyen was going to laugh at her, but worse, much worse, she had a feeling this misunderstanding was about to get bigger. The alarm should have gone off 3 minutes earlier. Hana Choi knew this because she had checked the maintenance schedule twice that morning. But alarms were only as good as the people who set them, and on a research station floating above an alien world, small mistakes could turn into big problems very quickly. She stood in the agricultural dome, her tablet in one hand and a wrench in the other. The dome was her favorite place on the station. Plants from a dozen different worlds grew here under carefully controlled conditions. The air smelled like earth, like grass and soil and growing things. It made her homesick and comforted at the same time. The coolant line above her head made a sound. A small sound. A tick-tick-tick that didn't belong. Hana looked up just as the pipe burst. Superheated vapor shot out in a white cloud. She tried to move, but the spray caught her arm. Pain exploded across her skin, sharp and burning. She stumbled backward, hit a table, and felt something slice deep into her forearm as she fell. Metal equipment scattered across the floor. For a moment, everything was white noise and hurt. Then her training kicked in. Hana sat up slowly, cradling her injured arm. Blood ran down to her elbow, dripping onto the floor. The cut was deep, running from her wrist halfway to her elbow. Around it, her skin was red and blistering from the steam. She needed to call for help. Her communicator was on her belt. But something made her pause. 3 pairs of eyes watched her from behind a row of storage containers. Hana blinked. "Hello?" The eyes didn't blink. They glowed slightly in the dim light, yellow-green like a cat's eyes. She knew what they were. Valkyrie, the aliens who shared this station with the human researchers. More specifically, they were cubs, young ones. She could tell by their size and the way they huddled together. They shouldn't be here. The agricultural dome wasn't a play area. "It's okay," Hana said softly, though her arm screamed at her to do something about it. "I'm not angry. You're not in trouble." The cubs didn't move. Their ears, tall and pointed, covered in short fur, swiveled toward her. Listening, Hana made a decision. She could call for help and scare the cubs away. Or she could handle this herself and not get 3 young Valkyrie in trouble for being somewhere they shouldn't be. She reached for her emergency medical kit. Every researcher carried one. She'd restocked hers just last week. "I'm going to fix this," she said aloud. Talking helped. It kept her focused, pushed back the pain. "First, I need to clean it. Always clean the wound first. Dirt and debris cause infections." She pulled out an antiseptic pad and tore it open with her teeth. The cub's eyes followed every movement. The antiseptic burned worse than the original injury. Hana hissed through her teeth but kept working. "Burns are tricky," she continued, her voice tight. "You have to cool them down, but not too much. And this cut, this needs more than a bandage." Blood kept welling up. She grabbed a gauze pad and pressed hard, counting to 30 in her head. Pressure stops bleeding. Basic first aid. When she lifted the gauze, the blood flow had slowed. "Better," she muttered. From her kit, she pulled out a tube of synthetic skin sealant. It was expensive stuff, manufactured on Earth and shipped across half the galaxy. But it worked. She spread it carefully along the edges of the wound, watching as it bonded to her skin. The cubs crept closer. She could see them better now. 3 of them, probably siblings. Their fur was dark, one black, one deep brown, one gray. They wore simple clothes, the kind Valkyrie children wore. Their tails twitched behind them, betraying their curiosity. "The sealant will hold the skin together," Hana explained, though she wasn't sure why she was still talking to them. "But it's too deep. I need to stitch it." She'd done this before in medical training, but doing it to yourself was different. Her hands shook slightly as she threaded the curved needle. The local anesthetic from her kit helped, numbing the area around the cut. The first stitch was the hardest. Hana pushed the needle through her own skin and pulled it tight. The cubs made a sound, a soft chirping noise. Fascination, maybe, or horror. Hard to tell. She kept going. 1 stitch, 2, 3, 7 total. Each one careful and precise. She tied them off with small knots, then applied more sealant over the top. The burns needed attention, too. She spread a cooling gel over the blistered areas, then wrapped everything in a clean bandage. Her hands moved automatically now, following procedures she'd practiced hundreds of times. When she finished, she sat back and let out a long breath. The pain had dulled to a throb. Her arm was wrapped from wrist to elbow in white bandages already spotted with small bloodstains. "There," she said. "All done." The cubs stood fully now, no longer hiding. The smallest one, the gray one, took a step closer. Its nose twitched. Before Hana could say anything else, the dome's main door hissed open. Heavy footsteps echoed through the space. Adult Valkyrie. Several of them, human. The voice was deep and rough. "We received an alert. Pressure drop in this section." Hana looked up at the Valkyrie entering the dome. They were huge, over 7 feet tall, heavily muscled, with fur ranging from gold to black. They moved like predators, all coiled strength and sharp awareness. The leader spotted her on the floor, saw the blood, and his eyes narrowed. "You're injured." "I'm fine," Hana said quickly. "Just an accident." The coolant line. "Where are the cubs?" Another Valkyrie female pushed past the first. Her eyes scanned the room and landed on the three youngsters. There you are. We've been searching for you. The cubs' ears flattened against their heads. Guilty, but the smallest one pointed at Hana. Battle ritual, it said in broken galactic standard. The language everyone on the station used to communicate. We saw. She performed battle ritual. The adult Velkari looked confused. What? She marked herself, the cub continued, excitement replacing fear. With precision. With honor. We watched the whole ceremony. Hana opened her mouth to explain, but the Velkari healer, identified by the medical symbols on his uniform, was already moving toward her. Ceremony? Foolish human. You should have called for help immediately. That wound needs proper treatment. I did treat it, but he wasn't listening. Strong hands lifted her from the floor. The healer barked orders at the others. Someone grabbed her medical kit. Someone else started checking the damaged coolant line. As they carried her toward the medical bay, Hana looked back at the three cubs. They stood together, watching her leave. Their eyes were wide with something that looked like, "Aw, strange cubs," the healer muttered, talking about ceremonies and rituals. They watched too many warrior tales. Hana didn't respond. Her arm hurt. Her head was starting to pound and she had no idea what had just happened. But something in those cubs' eyes stayed with her. They had seen something she didn't understand yet, something important. So many Velkari watching with new expressions. Not mockery. Not amusement. Something closer to respect. The medical bay was crowded. Hana sat on an examination table while two doctors worked on her. Dr. Jiwon Park, human, and Thrak, the Velkari healer who treated her after the dome incident. They moved around each other with professional efficiency, though their approaches couldn't have been more different. Muscle damage in both legs, Jiwon said, running a scanner over Hana's thighs. Nothing permanent, but you'll be sore for days. I'm prescribing muscle regeneration therapy and rest. The cold damage is minimal, Thrak added gruffly. Sensation should return to the hands within hours. Though why you subjected yourself to such foolishness? He shook his massive head. To prove a point, Hana said tiredly. You proved several points, Jiwon said with a smile, none of which were smart but all impressive. In the corner of the medical bay, the three cubs sat in chairs that were too large for them. Their legs dangled and they watched every procedure with intense focus. They'd refused to leave even when the adult Velkari tried to remove them. Commander Doyen stood nearby, keeping watch. You know half the station is talking about the trial right now, he said. The human sections are celebrating. The Velkari sections are debating. Debating what? Hana asked as Jiwon injected something that made her leg muscles tingle. Whether what you did was honorable or just strange. Some think you cheated by using meditation techniques. Others think you revealed a warrior tradition humans have kept hidden. It's complicated. Why you hide scars? Rith suddenly asked from his chair. All eyes turned to him. We not understand. You won great trial. You should mark yourself with victory scars, but you make them disappear again. Why? Jiwon paused in her work. Thrak's ears twitched forward, also curious. Hana took a breath. Because humans don't see scars the same way you do. We know this, Kayla said. But not why. Explain? How do you explain an entire cultural philosophy to children from a completely different world? Hana thought for a moment, then gestured to her wrapped hands. These injuries will heal completely. In a few weeks, there won't be any sign I put my hands in ice water. No scars, no marks. To you, that seems wasteful, right? Like I'm erasing proof of survival. All three cubs nodded. But think about it differently. If I let these heal badly with scars and damage, what happens? Vorn tilted his head. You have proud marks? Maybe. But I also might not be able to use my hands properly. Scars can be stiff. They can hurt. They can limit movement. So every time I tried to work in my lab, I'd struggle. Every time I tried to do delicate research, my damaged hands would make mistakes. You sacrifice pride for function, Thrak said slowly. It wasn't a question. Understanding dawned in his eyes. Exactly. Humans are fragile. We don't have your strength, your natural weapons, your tough skin, so we had to get very good at healing. Because if we didn't heal properly, we'd die, or we'd be too damaged to survive the next challenge. Jiwon stepped in. It's why human medicine is so advanced. We had to be. We couldn't afford to let wounds slow us down. On Earth, an injured human who couldn't hunt or gather or work would die. So we learned to fix ourselves completely. But you still fought in trial. Ryth said, confused. You still showed warrior spirit. If humans so fragile, how you have warrior spirit? Hana smiled. That's the thing. We have warrior spirit because we're fragile, not despite it. When everything can hurt you, when everything can kill you, just surviving takes courage. The cubs were silent, processing this. Doyen spoke up. The Velkari honor scars because they survive battles. Humans honor healing because we survive by recovering completely. Different approaches, same goal, living to fight another day. Show us, Kayla said suddenly. Show us human healing. Not just talk. Show ceremony. It's not a ceremony, Hana started, but then stopped. To the cubs, everything was ritual and meaning. Maybe that wasn't wrong. Maybe medical treatment was a ceremony of sorts, a ritual of survival. Okay, she said. Dr. Park, can you explain what you're doing as you work? G1 nodded. Of course, she held up a device. This is a cellular regeneration scanner. See the screen? It shows Hana's muscle fibers. These red areas are damaged. Watch. She applied the device to Hana's leg. On the screen, the red areas slowly shifted to yellow, then green. The scanner stimulates the body's natural healing, G1 explained. But much faster. What would take weeks happens in minutes. The muscle fibers repair themselves good as new. The cubs crept closer, staring at the screen. Throck watched too. We have healing technology, but we don't use it this extensively. We heal enough to survive, then let the body finish naturally. Why? G1 asked. Tradition, honor, pride in scars. Throck paused. But watching this, I wonder about the warriors we've lost to infections. To old wounds that never healed right. What if we'd had this approach? The room fell quiet. You lose warriors to old injuries? Doyen asked carefully. Of course. It's expected. Old warriors carry their scars until they can't fight anymore. Then they retire or die. It's the way, but it doesn't have to be, G1 said. Imagine if those warriors could heal completely. Fight longer. Train the next generation. Share their experience. Throck's ears went back, not anger, but deep thought. This is difficult to consider. Our entire culture is built on scars as honor. Then build on both, Hana suggested. Honor the scar when it happens. Acknowledge the battle, the survival, the courage, but then heal it properly so you can face the next battle at full strength. Ryth stood up on his chair, his tail swishing excitedly. Like keeping medals in box. You have medals. You know they exist, but you not wear them always. You wear them for special occasions. That's actually a good analogy, Doyun said, surprised. Vorn joined in. We could have scar ceremonies. When warrior gets honorable wound, we have celebration. Everyone sees. Everyone honors. Then warrior heals fully with human medicine. Best of both traditions, Kayla added. The adult Velkari and humans looked at each other. From the mouths of children came solutions neither culture had considered. Of course, changing Velkari tradition isn't something that happens overnight, Throck said. But he sounded less certain than before. This would need discussion, debate, time. But it could happen, Ryth said hopefully. Maybe? Maybe, Throck admitted. Over the next hour, as Jiwan finished Hana's treatment, more people filtered into the medical bay. First other humans, curious about Hana's condition. Then more Velkari, including some who'd watched the trial. Kael arrived with his father, Commander Throckvar. The young warrior's hands were wrapped in warming bandages from his own ice water exposure. I came to check on my opponent, Kael said formally, then more quietly, and to understand how humans think about injury. What followed was unprecedented. Velkari and humans crowded into the medical bay and the adjoining rooms, discussing healing philosophies. G1 and Throck demonstrated techniques side by side. The cubs asked endless questions, their young minds not bound by old traditions. Hana found herself at the center of it, still sitting on the examination table, explaining human medical history. She told them about ancient human healers, about how humans had always sought to cure rather than just endure, about vaccines and antibiotics and surgery and gene therapy. We turned our weakness into strength, she said, because we had to. And maybe that's what all species do. You Velkari turned your strength into culture. We turned our fragility into medicine. An older Velkari warrior, scarred and grizzled, spoke up. I lost my mate to an old wound that went bad, infection. Nothing could stop it. She was strong, honorable, but she died anyway. He looked at the medical equipment around him. If we'd known, if we'd been willing to try different ways, It's not too late, Jiwon said gently, for future wounds. For the next generation, the warrior nodded slowly. As the evening wore on, something shifted in the room. The rigid line between human and Velkari softened. They weren't just two species sharing a station anymore. They were two cultures learning from each other. Throkvar made an announcement. Tomorrow I will meet with the station's command council. We will discuss establishing a joint medical program, Velkari and humans working together, learning both approaches. He looked at Hana. If the scientist agrees to teach us? Of course, Hana said, but I'm not an expert. I'm a biologist, not a doctor. You're someone who understands both survival and healing, Throkvar corrected. That's what we need, the cubs cheered. Rith climbed onto Hana's examination table and announced, I will learn human medicine. I will be first Velkari Scarkeeper. Healer, Throk corrected gently. The term is healer. Scarkeeper sounds better, Wrath insisted. Laughter filled the medical bay, both human and Velkari, blending together. Late that night, after everyone had left and Hana was finally released to her quarters, she stood in front of her mirror. Her hands were still wrapped. Her legs ached. She had bruises forming where Kyle had marked her during the trial. In a week, they'd all be gone. Healed completely. No scars, but she'd remember. The trial, the pain, the moment when two species started to understand each other. Maybe memories were better than scars anyway. Memories could teach, could inspire, could change minds. A message appeared on her communication device. From Rith. Thank you, Scarkeeper. Tomorrow we learn together? Hana smiled and typed back, Tomo,